Let's talk about the next business at hand. Hit the bell, Professor Nim. That's your topic. Let's talk about it. Paulie Malignaggi came out, and you could clear up what he said in particular because you informed me on the news.
I did. So Paulie had an interview this weekend, I believe, with it's a schmo. It's like the schmo and the pro. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a guy, pretty funny. He gets into character, but one of the things that they talked about is that Paulie mentioned that he was banned from covering any of Wilder's fights, and the schmo was like, what's going on with that? And I guess Wilder's team, or maybe even Wilder himself, has an issue that Paulie felt that Tyson Fury won the first fight, which is just an opinion. And it's just, as Paulie said, it's just math. If I think that this person won 8 rounds or won 9 rounds and you run these other rounds and then there's another extra point, it's simple mathematics and trying to bring that up. And it's okay to have that opinion because one thing, it can be based on something quantitative, which is counting up the rounds that you think somebody won within a particular fight. So not only that, I found that a little surprising because Paulie, I think, is a good analyst. And it's not about targeting one boxer. I think anytime that Paulie thinks that somebody didn't get a decision that he felt that deserved, he's been very outspoken about talking about that. Yeah. But it also begs the bigger question about journalism and how far you should go to make sure that you kind of stamp out a certain narrative because you don't like that particular narrative.
Yeah,
right?
But you got to keep in mind, for Deontay Wilder's defense, Paulie is very influential when he's on Showtime, commentating. He could influence a lot of people that's watching. And he went in far and beyond, claiming basically it was a robbery. This is what's wrong with the sport and this and that. When the fight itself, if we being fair and we be honest about Deontay Wilder versus Fury, there was 6 punches separating them that was landed. Tyson Fury only landed 6 or 7 punches. I know it was not more than 10 punches. And we're talking about for a full 12 rounds. So the fight was closer than a lot of people were saying, and Wilder had 2 knockdowns. So if you put that in the equation, Wilder having 2 knockdowns, and there was only 7 punches that Tyson Fury landed more so than Deontay Wilder, then it could be a draw. So Deontay Wilder felt like Paulie went far and beyond and claiming it was a robbery when it wasn't that. It was a close fight and it was a draw and we get to run it back. But Paulie, he felt like that Paulie went far and beyond. And that's, of course, he's being outspoken. Paulie's being himself. Yeah. And that's part of journalism.
It's nothing personal.
At the end of the day, it's hurting Deontay Wilder because every time he does an interview, he hear about Paulie talking about it was a robbery. He be like, is you serious? I've been fighting on this network for I don't know how long. Like, I basically made my debut there. And instead of you promoting me or give credit where credit is deserved because the fight was close, you saying it was a robbery? He felt like that Paulie had something to say on him because if we being honest, Paulie one of my favorite guys too that does commentary. But the problem with Paulie lately, he been focusing on too much of the negative instead of the positive. Well, with all his knowledge, he could promote Deontay Wilder when he's fighting. Look, I know Deontay Wilder is not the best technical fighter in the world. However, at the same time, he could lose every second of every single round. But all he has to do is be perfect for 1 second, and he could win the fight by KO, because that's all she wrote. He could inform the fans that don't know about Deontay Wilder, because there's a lot of casual fans that's tuning in that just want to see the KO. But meantime, while they watching, they hearing you bashing him for his technique and all of that, instead of appreciating him for what he bringing to the table. So that's why Deontay Wilder, he felt like that, okay, this guy's focusing on the negative instead of the positive. Just like the other commentary too during the Malignaggi fight. They were pointing out, oh, people booing. Like what? Like Boxing Ego said, man, when Bradley fought Provodnikov, which was the fight of the year, they stopped fighting for a couple seconds and the fans started booing. Yeah. Let the fans do what they do. They drunk. They over there. Of course, let them do what they do. You focus on your job, informing the viewers, just like the UFC do. They never bashed the fighter to that extent, from what I've seen. Obviously, I don't watch UFC like that. From what I've seen, the commentary is usually pretty good. But boxing, they always bash the fighter, and they started to kind of get back to the HBO roots, where Jim Lampley and Larry used to bash and focus on the negative of Floyd Mayweather instead of giving credit.
I mean, bash seems strong. I think it's okay to have critique or even be critical about a boxer, and if he felt that, I mean, bash is where you go out of your way to tear down a certain boxer. I don't.
Well, that's how Deontay Wilder felt. That he was going out of his way to bash him, saying it was a robbery when the fight was really close. It was only 7 punches separating them. With Deontay Wilder knockdowns, that could have closed the gap.
Because you don't agree with that, you say, I don't want him working my fights.
Because
come on, because you
Fox
don't agree
Sport,
with that.
You know, that's not Showtime. Fox Sport, that's PBC. PBC, Paulie don't even work there, period.
What? No, but he worked. But the fight is gonna be on Showtime.
No, Showtime. The fight will be on PBC Fox.
Yeah, but I mean, excuse me, ESPN. Yeah, so they have the joint agreement.
Paulie only works as a commentator for Showtime. He's not fighting for Showtime. I understand where Paulie's coming from as far as Deontay Wilder bashing him and stuff, but you got to take the good with the bad. Like, if you're going to make a public statement out like that, you know, it's a robbery and this and that, of course Paulie going to stick by his guns, as he should. But in my opinion, he did go far and beyond by critiquing Deontay Wilder too much. Because like I said, he focusing on the fact that, he's not as technical. Because remember, fighters who commentate, like Paulie, Roy Jones, and who else? George Foreman. What I realized is every fighter focus on what he remembers from fighting. Like Paulie, for example, he always talk about a fighter character, because Paulie Malignaggi character got tested a lot because he didn't have the punching power to earn a lot of his opponent's respect. So he had the character to dig down deep and fight and pull off the win. So he always talk about fighters' characters, as you seen when he talks about Broner, etc. When you hear Roy Jones, you see he talk about the mentality. When you go in the ring, you got to think you're the best, this and that. You know, because from his perspective, that's what he was seeing every time he stepped in the ring. George Foreman, this is the funny one. He always talking about fighter getting gassed out, because he got gassed out when he fought Muhammad Ali in Africa. Remember, in the 8th round, he punched himself out, and Muhammad Ali was doing the rope-a-dope, and the last thing George Foreman remembers is you got to pace yourself and not punch yourself out. So he always mentioned fighters, oh, he looked fatigued, oh, he done, he this and that. When the fighter is probably not that tired, sometimes he'd be correct, sometimes he's not, but they point out the things that apply to them. Paulie Malignaggi is a boxer, just like Tyson Fury. I think he's the Tyson Fury of the heavyweight division. I think Tyson Fury is a better fighter, though.
Paulie Malignaggi.
Yeah, I think Tyson Fury is a better technical fighter, in my opinion. In heavyweight, he has better defense, in my opinion. But he still have the same style. He don't have the best punching power in the world. So Paulie could relate to what Tyson Fury is doing. And he sees it and he appreciates it. But he's also not appreciating what Deontay Wilder is doing at the same time. That's what I think. I just think from his perspective is what he's seeing, because that's what he experienced. But to your point, you know, what do you say to that?
I would like to say that in the spirit of journalism is that we live in a free nation. We have the First Amendment right, which is super critical. And I think it's okay to have dissent. And I actually think that's healthy. I don't think that you don't want to just come up in this echo chamber with a bunch of yes men. Why you think Broner has so many issues? Because he don't have people that will sit him down and kind of check him and be like, man, you clowning. Like, and you know what? You actually lost that round. You need to step up. You need to throw your hands more instead of always just telling him, oh, you doing good. Yeah, you won that round. Nah, you lost that round because you only threw 12 punches.
Man, you know I beat that boy. You know I beat that boy. You know I beat that boy. Man, he thought he'd be back out. But that's my man. I'm just saying, I get what you're saying from.
And then one last point is that, so there was, I said that I would bring this up because it goes both ways. Yeah. So there was some issue about Stephen A. Smith. Right, so Stephen A. Smith, when he watched the Conor McGregor fight against Cowboy Cerrone, he said that he felt that you didn't learn much from that fight because Cowboy didn't show up. And this is not a MMA station, but I was telling AkHi that Cowboy has a history of when it comes to his biggest fights, when he's main eventing, he does not show up. He basically just wilts. He gets knocked out usually within seconds. And that is just a part of his narrative. And that was something that they talked about going in. So Stephen A. Smith was not wrong in bringing that up. And then they bashed him and they drug him. So the thing is that just because you have somebody who doesn't agree or doesn't want to slob all over this dude because he won, that's fine. That's called good journalism. And then so I think when you start banning certain people from going to your events or doing that, because we're gonna, we consider ourselves as part of the
we are the culture, the new media, the boxing culture,
and all that. So we want to have a voice, and we're not always gonna agree with the boxer, but we still want an opportunity to cover them, and then be a part of the
our
sport,
opinion.
And
now for Stephen A. Smith, I must clear her up. I don't always agree with him, especially not when it comes to boxing. Of course, that's not his field anyways, but a lot of brothers don't agree with basketball with him as well. But one thing for sure, the point he brought up was a great point in the UFC when he said that Conor McGregor, Cowboy, you don't learn much because he always get knocked out. However, they attacked him and feel comfortable attacking him because they know he don't know much about the sport and they could attack that field and that point. But the main point is that he stated facts. For the first time, y'all gonna bash him. For the first time, he actually said something decent that was actually correct because Khabib even came out and co-signed him. Khabib was like, man, Cowboy, he lost 8 of his last 10 fights. And you said every time Cowboy step up, he loses. He just cannot, at that level, under them lights, he cannot perform. Either he don't have it, or he's just not on the elite level or the A level.
Both.
So that
all
being
the
said,
above.
all the above. He could be a C level all day, but A level he's just not. So Stephen A. Smith did not lie. But of course, the UFC and the Conor McGregor fans was mad that he told the truth at that point because they want to give Conor McGregor more credit than what he actually deserved.
But my point is that it goes both ways or not. So at the same time, even though, so they tried to attack Stephen A. Smith's credibility when it comes to that forward, which is a fair point. But I don't think anybody's going to question Paulie Malignaggi's credibility when it comes to boxing and doing that. And he just might not. And
some people started having issues with what he's been saying.
The boxer a little bit better. I mean, it does, but still. You know what? Bring them in, and then and then have a face to face with them. But but we can move on with that.
Last thing to say to that, let me add my 2 cents at the end. I see where you come from, but all I'm saying is this: with Paulie Malignaggi knowledge in boxing, what Deontay Wilder is coming from, he's saying he could focus on the good instead of the bad. If I could focus on anybody bad habits or the bad things they doing, them getting hit too much, whatever. So if I see a war, I could say, oh man, they just punching bags. Instead of saying, oh man, they going toe to toe. This is the fight of the year. If they boxing, I could say, oh, he running. Instead of saying, oh, he showing his skill that he could float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, like Muhammad Ali. So, like I said, you could focus on the good and praise it instead of the bad and downgrade the fighter, especially a fighter that fights on the network and debuted on the network. That's what Deontay Wilder is coming from.
I think you're being sensitive.
I ain't being sensitive. I'm just laying out how it's supposed to be laid out. Comment below who you thought won the debate. Me, Professor Nim, the caller, because I'm undefeated. I'm what Canelo wanna be. It's pound for pound #1 on Split Decision when it comes to debate. That being said, I appreciate all my AkHis. We're gonna put the guns down and the gloves up. Shout out to Rig India for winning by split decision, becoming a 2-time world champion at 2 different weight divisions. The Boogeyman. Shout out to Professor Nim.
3K, baby.
And like I said, everybody in the chat, subscribe below if you're trying to get smarter by the minute. If you're trying to get dumber by the second, don't. And listen to these casual fans, or AKA decafs, dumbass casual fans, because the casual fan ain't no disrespect. If you're a casual fan and you want to be a hardcore, all you have to do is attend the AkHi University every Sunday live on Split Decision. And hopefully one day y'all will graduate from the AkHi University. And just like Deontay always say, man, we speak the truth and nothing but the truth. We offer the book of the truth on Split Decision. So if you hate to hear the truth, man, you're going to hurt your feelings listening to us, and your eardrum might bust. So like I said, man, I appreciate every single one of my AkHis. Take us out, Professor Nam, while I keep it rolling.